Blues, what's going on? It's Preacher, and oh
here it
my
is.
God! Blizzard is communicating with us, my friends. They are communicating with us, and we have an official response from Josh, aka Law, regarding Azerite armor, which has been a hot button topic on my channel now since the first moment of BFA Alpha. And yeah,
he doesn't like it.
Negativity going around. I know you guys are getting tired of it. Believe me, me too. Me too. I want something glorious to share with you. And this morning when we started the stream, I checked the sheer amount of people before we'd even clicked start streaming who were in the chat waiting for me to start and were like, dude, you have to see this. And also I then checked my Twitter feed after and you'd spammed me with it. And okay.
I got spammed with it too.
It's rather lengthy. I am going to read it because each paragraph here, it sums about 7 or 8 paragraphs. Each paragraph actually contains something worthy of comment.
For a blue post.
And some sort of feedback. So if you have already read it, I'll put a timestamp down below where we actually give that comment and that feedback regarding this post. Okay, so for context for the post, people were once again made a very concise post. I'm going to bring up his name because he actually did a really good job.
What's his name?
I didn't agree with absolutely everything in the op, but it was Chaos Bug from the Divine Vigilance Guild.
Good job,
Chaos Bug. He made a rather concise post with all the issues that he has with Azerite armor, and he made one of the best comparisons I can make regarding Azerite armor and how it's acquired that I've ever seen. It was so fucking brilliant that I can't wait to share it with you after this.
That's his music in the... that's his. Like, he has that 1995 elevator music techno song. It's not me. Guys, relax. It's chill. Guys, just chill.
So all the issues we've had with Azerite armor, here we go. We got an official blue response from our community manager. Let's see what he had to say.
It's from Lore.
First off, thank you for putting this thread together. Even if phrases like worst itemization in WoW's history are a bit hyperbolic, parentheses, seriously, I can't be the only one who remembers farming level 30 dungeons for AQ40 resistance gear, close parentheses. You've summarized a lot of the discussions we've been seeing around the community very well. It really helps us clarify exactly what we need to be focusing on. I'll speak to each of your points as best I can. Regarding targeting specific traits, I think we've said this a few times now, but just to reiterate, we believe that's merely a symptom of the imbalance between traits. Ideally, the gap between them isn't so large that you feel it would be hugely beneficial.
And this is what the community manager is saying.
Perfect set. The point about traits being useless and uninteresting is interesting, considering that you also make the point of every gear change requires simming.
So he's trying to prove the poster wrong.
These 2 points are kind of at odds with each other.
They're not.
The way to solve the simming issue would be to make the traits more simplistic in nature. Similarly, making traits with more outside-the-box designs leads to more complicated questions of, is this better or not? Which in turn encourages more simming. Either way, it's an interesting challenge, and we're taking to mind as we move forward with traits in future updates. I think we agree that refarming traits doesn't feel great. I don't have a solve for that issue to share today. And to be completely transparent, it may be something we simply have to accept as a downside to the system.
We have to accept it. You made it.
We agree it can be a bit of a downer.
It's like God accepting original sin.
I mentioned the imbalance between traits before.
What do you mean?
But just to expand on that, that's why we focus so much effort into tuning the Azerite traits over the past few weeks. With this most recent round of tuning, we think we've gotten the most out of the really egregious outliers dialed in, but please let us know if there are any you still feel are so good that they're worth huge sacrifices in terms of item level. As to the point about reforging costs, these costs get so high because we want the behavior we're describing. Reforging constantly depending on what you're doing to be unsustainable.
That sounds awesome.
Our intention is that you either build out multiple sets of gear for different situations, or you lean towards traits that work in a variety of roles, even if they're maybe not the best for each.
That seems like it's terrible.
This aberration must not be allowed to threaten our people any longer.
For example, a DPS who suddenly finds themselves needing to transition to being their guild's main tank, not as a means for constantly readjusting traits like a second set of talent points. Maybe the current system isn't achieving that, but if it's
not,
we're likely to become more, in caps, this was highlighted, more restrictive on reforging, not less. And finally, regarding the tuning passes, Like I
But
mentioned,
what does that
we
do
think
for
we've
the-
got
why
most
is that
of the
good?
major outliers
A
down
lot of
into
travelers have been
acceptable
killed
level
in
at
this
point.
area.
There's
I need
likely
you
to
to
still
take
be
out
some
whoever is behind
adjustments
these
here and
attacks.
there, but we do not believe we're going to need another big wave of Azerite trait tuning like you've seen over the last few weeks. To put it another way, if one trait is far
It
and
would
away
be
the
a
best
shame
compared
for
to
all these
every other
munitions
option,
to go to
sure,
waste.
we should
initiated.
probably
You
do
know what to
something
do.
about that. But we don't expect that to take the form of a widespread tuning pass going forward.
Okay.
Also, to Ian's comment about the new traits being introduced, he was referring to new traits on new gear added in new content with higher item level. That replaces your old gear entirely.
So what about
We're
Mythic
not
Plus?
planning to
Structural
add in new
integrity,
traits to existing
0%.
items, so don't worry about holding on to old Azerite pieces just in case their traits change.
Oh no, that would never
That's the end
happen.
of the post. Now, there's
That
a
would never
huge
happen.
amount to digest here. This is a lot to digest. And I'm sure
Intruder
some of you are
alert.
either... I imagine some of you are probably okay with what you just heard, but I imagine some of you are just going, what?
The only people who are okay
Because
with
there's
it are
some
the ones
very
that weren't
dark things in
listening.
here. And this conversation between the community and the developers regarding this gearing system has almost taken a rather bitter turn now.
Yes.
They actually see this felt very defensive to me.
Well,
It
they
came
are.
across as very defensive, and I think the message overall, where before
Foreign
we get into
attack
details,
sequence
at this
is
point, we would
Excellent
kind of
job.
just like you to
Oh,
shut
you
the
showed
fuck
them
up
how
about
we
it
do
and get
things
on
in
with
the
it.
valley.
Because
Just
we can't do
accept
anything
it.
about it, and it feels like that's the situation.
They can't do anything about
There are
their
some
own
things
game.
that you're probably saying, wait a minute,
They
isn't
can't do
that
anything.
wrong? And we are going to get to that in a moment.
It's
But
out
it
of their
definitely
control.
feels at this point like rings 1 and 2 of the
System
Azerite system are basically
threat
just wrong.
detected.
So let's start at the beginning, and I'll kind of guide through how I arrived at this situation after over an
too
hour
far
of
away.
discussion this week. Let me clear my throat. 'Cause there's a lot to talk about. Okay,
need a
let's
target.
talk about the opening
I
paragraph
don't have a
where the
target.
Azerite system was
My
compared,
life.
because obviously in the original post, it was, he said this is the
kind of
worst,
range?
the worst itemization we've ever had in that.
It's too far
And in that
away.
regard, he's talking to a huge amount of traits that are not clear on if they're good or not, and they're
That's true.
constantly being changed and switched around, and frankly, we don't know if we've got them or not, right? So all these issues is
out of
you're
range.
asking
That's very
us to
true.
chase these carrots, which for one, when I get the carrot, I'm
Activating
not sure if I've got a
countermeasures.
carrot. I can't tell in any
Leak
way, shape, or form whether I have
detected.
it or not, unless I break down my damage or whatever.
Well, you might have a carrot one week, and then Blizzard hot fixes it to a piece of
I
shit.
can't read what's on this carrot to figure out if the carrot
Of
I'm
course
chasing
not.
is any
It'll be
good.
complicated for
And
players.
I'm also having to put a lot of
What?
effort into this, and I'm also having the access to the carrot restricted because Azerite armor acquisition past item level 340 is hugely, hugely gated.
No
and
carrots.
down entirely to RNG.
Right.
A massive amount.
You need to
of
have
RNG.
multiple sets.
And therefore, this is
Keep
the
that in
worst
mind.
system ever. One, it's hard for me to get.
Yes.
2, I don't know if it's good when I get it.
Yep.
And 3, I kind of have to farm an ulterior source to make it work. So I'm not happy with this system.
And 4, it
whatsoever.
gets changed constantly.
The comparison to farming
I need a
Moradon
target.
in vanilla 13 years ago for AQ40
It's too far
resistance
away.
gear, I actually, again, where I think this is trying to, I don't think this landed with anybody as a reasonable comparison.
Because it was
Comparing
stupid.
the Azerite system, which is the foundation of an expansion, to a very niche case of Anchorage 40-man raiders, which were very, very far apart from the vast majority of the player base.
I don't have a
Having
target.
to do a level 30 farmable dungeon, which you could do in a few minutes, because I did this. I was there.
My
No, you're not the
day.
only one who remembers. I was there.
Dive
You could
me
do it in a
not.
few minutes. It
Dive
wasn't exactly a
blood.
This is completely right. Like, I just want to pause this and just point out how wrong this is. So what he's talking about is the first boss in Moradon, and one of the wings that you were able to kill, he gave you a trinket that removed poisons, and it also gave you nature resistance. That mob was like level 39 or something like that. People would go in there and they would farm it. The idea of
Any
farming a
weapons
mob
coming out
that has a
of
loot
these
table of
doors
5
foundry should be
items with a group
protecting
of
the
5
people,
people that you can
not
do it 5
oppressing them.
times an hour is the same as rolling a random fucking number generating a number generated
Unauthorized
dice
user.
that has like 50,000 fucking sides on it, and then opening up a box and getting another pair of gloves that you don't fucking need instead of the Azerite armor that you need. It's just a completely wrong comparison. And if you want to use, hey, well, we did one thing dumb before, so this other thing
out
dumb
of
that we're
range.
doing now isn't even half as dumb than what we've done before. So why are you calling us dumb now whenever we've done things that are way dumber than this? You haven't seen anything yet.
big ask to go into Moradon and farm something that you could come out and just do again.
And I thought nature
You could
resist
do it
was
over and
fine,
over
by
and
the
over
way.
Again, it wasn't a big deal.
Exactly.
Yes, it sucked, and yes, it made no sense that for the 3rd tier Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Encourage, that we had to go back to a level 30 dungeon in order to acquire items for one specific boss. In this case, it was Princess Hooverang, who did so much nature damage, you had to get nature resist gear.
Tides bless you. Our valley is safe once more.
Moradon. And I would also point out that
ZG,
it's very, very different for high-level, high-geared raiders to go and farm a level 30 dungeon.
Yeah, it's really hard.
The comparison there is completely spurious. It's just utterly ridiculous, and it really put a bad tone into anybody who did remember that's mouth. I think he did himself no favors comparing that.
He's talking about being a high-end raider. I remember there was one of the Q&As where Josh and Ian were talking, and then they were talking about a mechanic on Ragnaros, and Josh was talking about the normal mode mechanic, and Ian was talking about the heroic mode mechanic, right? Like Josh was in phase 3, Ian was in phase 4. And this is just another example of Josh being in phase 3.
I sense Azurite nearby.
Yes,
but
it was also
drawing a great deal of power
it was
from
also
it.
13
You
years
need
ago,
to
I don't hate
stop
Josh or
it.
and it
anything.
also affected a very, very tiny fraction of the player base who happened to be progressing on one of the later bosses of the 3rd out of 4 tiers of vanilla linear raiding. We are talking about very, very, very few people who would go, oh yeah, this was just like this. Whereas the Azurite armor is affecting literally everybody who plays the game. And seems to be continuously affecting them till the end of the expansion. It's just not a fair comparison. And
the
really
fun
wasn't
never
a good
ends.
idea to bring that up, I don't think. Let's move on to the next point. The next point is really quite depressing because the only thing I could get out of this was, at this point, we would rather you didn't care about Azurite armor, and we're kind of making it intentional that you shouldn't care. So to remind you that going for specific traits, we think that's a symptom of imbalance. So some traits are just far better than others, which is what we saw in the very early days of BFA, and they have brought most of them in line now, by the way. Ideally, the gap between them isn't so large that you feel it would be hugely beneficial to grind out the perfect set. Obviously, a lot of this is up to interpretation, but I find it hard to find another interpretation out of this that isn't. Hopefully, we've balanced it to the point where you won't care.
Excellent.
It's just all, it's like, what's the point anyway? Like, why do you have different traits if they do the same thing?
A whole host of other questions.
Yeah.
If we're not really supposed to care about this system much, and you've balanced things in such a way that it doesn't really matter what we get, then why is it so prized and precious and being locked off? Also, why have you created a system? What's the purpose in this system if we're not really supposed to care about what
if they don't matter?
This makes no sense. Am I supposed to be more excited about a ring with good stats than Azurite armor, which is the big gearing selling point of Battle for Azeroth, of your whole expansion? Am I supposed to be more excited about a ring? Because I can tell you, honestly, as it stands, I am. If I see a really nice Titanforge ring with really good stats, I'm pretty happy.
I like that.
Getting Azurite armor, I'm not that interested at all. So they have achieved that, but the question then remains is, what's the point in the system? You've created a system that you seemingly don't want us to care about that much anymore, and we should just be happy with whatever we get whenever we get it.
Sounds like Blizzard has a lot of confidence.
Like you have a higher level piece.
You're a long way from home.
So right now, the most exciting benefit of Azurite armor is being stuck with 340 for quite a while, and then maybe getting a 370 or a 385 from
RNG,
from your Mythic Plus chest or your PvP chest or whatever. And that's the exciting part, is that the item level has shot up a lot. And maybe that's kind of the thought process that went into it, is having these rather large jumps in item level might feel quite satisfying to a lot of players. What the armor actually does and what it represents is kind of, it's neither here nor there. You shouldn't really care. That's not what they want you to care about.
Why would you care about the game?
It's rather sad
Doesn't
to
make
hear
any
that
sense.
that seems to be the intention, is that they're not really bothered. As long as you get something, that should be fine, because they're all pretty balanced and the same.
Then why do you have
moving
different
on to the
ones?
next comment then, which was obviously the traits themselves, is people bringing up that you're asking us to chase these carrots as we talked
I welcome
about, but they're
those
pretty
who honor
useless
the
and
sea.
uninteresting.
The carrots don't taste
the
good.
point about traits being useless and uninteresting is interesting, considering that you also make the point of every gear change requires simming. These 2 points are kind of at odds with each other. Well, they're absolutely not. And what bothers me a little bit about this comment is that Lorne definitely knows this. If you don't know where Josh or Lore came from, he came from doing the same thing I'm doing to you right now, is looking into the game mechanics, questioning, commenting, He knows exactly why these 2 points don't make sense. Just because your system of uninteresting traits is so ambiguous as to which ones are good that we're forced to sim it doesn't make them interesting in and of themselves. Just because I can't literally figure out which of these boring things is the best
Which piece of shit is the best?
Because I can't find out by reading it. I can't really find out by doing a test dummy either. I would need to stand there for hours to try and figure out which one's the best. And therefore I have to use a third-party website and program in order to figure out which one's the best of these terrible things.
Of course.
Does not make those terrible things interesting. And that's a very obvious thing.
Which terrible thing do I want today?
With this reply is like, why are you saying these two are odds to each other? Just because I have to go and do some extra work to figure out which one's best, because that's the system you've created, does not inherently make those things interesting at all. Finding out which of these terrible apples won't kill me isn't that interesting. You know what I mean? And it's a very crazy
Well, it's interesting. It's just not fun.
Suggest that those two things are mutually exclusive in some way. Or not mutually exclusive. It's very, very bizarre that he would even say that. He then goes on to say, the way to solve the simming issues would be to make the traits more simplistic in nature. And this is said in a way as if that would be a bad thing, because aren't they simple enough, is what I got from this. Like Thunderous Blast and Elemental Whirl.
They're all simple.
Dagger in the Back. They're already like very simple.
They're passive abilities that don't do anything.
We can't make them simpler than that. Well, actually, you can, and you know you can. If all those traits were gone, and let's say as a Frost Mage, for example, one of the traits was makes my Glacial Spike, which is my big heavy-hitting Ice Spike, hits 3 targets instead of 2 with a certain talent. It's very clear to me that that would be the obvious choice to take.
That's the AoE one.
In a 3-target cleave situation.
Yes.
Right? That would make absolute sense to me.
You're a long way from
You wouldn't need to look it up.
Suggest I can have Frozen Orb that stayed still like in PvP, and that was an Azerite trait for PvE. I would understand whether I wanted that or not.
Well, that would be badass.
It's still a remarkably simple trait. Your Frozen Orb is now stationary, isn't complex or difficult to understand. Your Spike now hits 3 targets, isn't difficult to understand. And that's why...
Well, it would be.
It seems to me that internally at Blizzard, they seemingly are trying to reduce the amount of information they give players by intentionally obscuring and leaving out information. We actually talked about that in the last...
If you want to understand what Blizzard's target audience is, type the emote Poogers into chat. Think about a person that personifies that, and that's what they're going for.
Video where we can see where they've openly admitted they're doing that, and that's making it simple enough, but in fact it's making the situation considerably worse, because there's so much information being left out of what is such an ambiguous ability that we don't know anything about it, and therefore we can't figure out if it's good or not, and therefore we're going to simming. Reducing the amount of words on a tooltip or how simple it seems to be explained. Yes, you can look at, say, Thunderous Blast or whatever, or some of the other ones, and say, well, we told you it just does random nature damage. That's pretty simple.
That's
like,
so
yes,
fun.
But there's 6 things that do random amounts of damage. Like,
how random is it?
That's not helping me in any way. And it's certainly not class-specific in any way. And that makes it considerably more difficult. The idea that simply reducing the amount of words in a tooltip equates to making things simple is not good.
No, it does for people who are really stupid.
Which seems to be the mindset at the moment.
Yes,
it's like we've made them as simple as possible, just get on with it. The obviously very, very dark portion of this was that they agree that having to just refarm the same traits over and over again for the end of the lifetime
Look at this.
is a downer, but fuck, that's the way it's going to be, and probably is.
Imagine, this is like, as I said, it's like God creating original sin. It's like they don't realize the fact that they have created this system. This is something that they have done. And they're like, well, we can't undo this. What do you mean you can't undo it? You did it. You just change it because you make it. You're God of WoW. You just changed the system. I don't know what else there is to say.
Is the way it's going to be for the remainder of the expansion, sorry, is really poor. Like, oh my, that's pretty scary. That's pretty scary, boys. I mean,
you're just going to have to deal with it.
Transparent. It's something that we have to accept as a downside to the system.
That sounds like a lot of
reply
fun.
to this post where this part
Scouts
was highlighted.
have reported
where
a
they just
dangerous
said,
enemy is lurking nearby.
can you tell us what the
Take
upsides
it
of
out.
this system are? You can agree there's downsides to the system. Which bit's the good bit? What are you selling us on?
Oh, that's so good.
Why is this a good system?
Why
in
is
your
this
opinion?
good?
I doubt we're going to get that response because the system is now totally.
It's
fought-
good
run
because
off
we
the
like
rails
it.
completely at this point. By this point,
I don't know why I really like
we've
it.
actually already agreed that one, refarming the traits is a downer, and they accept that, and that's the way it's going to be.
The people of
And on the other
Drustvar
side
are
of that, they've
grateful
also
for
said
your
you shouldn't
help.
really care about the traits you get. I mean, to say this system is collapsed, I think would be fair. It's an utterly useless system that hopefully is going to keep people
This is what we lost tier sets for.
Clearly not.
We lost tier
Let's move
sets for
forward
this.
again then. You mentioned the imbalance in the traits.
Thank you, Blizzard.
We're putting huge amounts of effort into retuning the traits to make them as balanced, and they have done that.
They could have done
They're
that
very
beta,
balanced, to the
but,
point
you know.
where you can just equip it. We did some testing today, choosing the absolute worst traits you could possibly pick,
Okay.
and then compared it to choosing the best traits you could possibly pick. It's still a good 10% depending on the class. Like my mage was about 5-10% DPS difference, which is still pretty substantial.
Why?
But it's
Why
far
would they
better
even do
than
that?
having 370 IR.
Why would you create a
385
system where the
Azra
player can
armor
just
being
make them
unable to
10%,
equip it at all?
make
But
themselves
there's
10%
still a
shittier?
reasonable difference there. But that's going
If
from
you're
the
trying to
absolute
streamline, what's the
max
point?
best you could get by doing steady research and choosing
I don't
the
get it.
intentionally worst across all three pieces. But it is about 10% still if you're interested in that. Okay. This bit was a little contradictory, I would think. The point about reforging. So obviously the issue was I have to keep swapping my Azerite armor traits depending on what I want to do. And then their reply is, actually, that's not what we want you to do. We don't even really want you ever doing that.
Listen to this.
And if we find people are swapping Azerite traits a lot, we're probably going to become more and more restrictive on reforging. They want you to be building multiple sets. The obvious question here...
This is how stupid this is. Mitch Jones had to DM me on Twitter because he needed to borrow 100K to reforge his Azerite armor because he ran out of money. And Blizzard's solution to that is they want Mitch to pay even more.
Then why have you heavily restricted us being able to build multiple sets? On the one hand, you're saying to us, hey, here's Azerite armor, and we give you the ability to change the traits if you want.
Yeah, guys, everybody
And we want you to build multiple sets of it.
send Gay Mitch on Kel'Thuzad some gold. He needs it to respec his Azerite armor. Gay Mitch on Kel'Thuzad. That's his character.
Target.
And on the other hand, they're saying, but we're going to make it incredibly difficult and completely down to the roll of the dice as to being able to build those multiple sets. These two systems do not compute. 1 and 1 does not equal 2 here. And that's a big problem. I mean, let's look at it from both sides. Right now, the problem is you might start to be picking up 370, 385 Azerite armor from your chests, but you've only got a head, a shoulders, maybe 2 pieces if you're raiding. Maybe you got lucky and got 3 pieces. And for your raid roll, okay, you're good. But in your other rolls, you don't really do anything. You do that thing. So if you're a shaman, for example, perhaps you're an enhancement in a raid, and don't get closer. Just using this as an example. But when you go into PvP, you're a healer, and when you do Mythic Plus, you tend to be Elemental, because that's the best for your setup and stuff. It's completely at odds with why we got rid of the artifact weapons. We got rid of the artifact weapons because it was very frustrating for people who played multiple roles of their spec and enjoyed the game more because of that. I want to be clear on this. People enjoyed the game a lot more. If they wanted to do multiple roles because that's how they played the game, they were punished because they
more
would have
diversity
to,
of content.
Triple the amount of AP as everybody else in order to get each weapon up. So the Heart of Azeroth solves that issue. Now we've got the other example where Azerite armor is being heavily restricted, one in acquisition. So
that's
it's very
really
difficult
good.
to acquire good pieces in the first place. And also that Blizzard is actively pushing the stance that we don't want you using this armor in multiple scenarios. We want you to build multiple sets.
Multiple
So
randomly generated RNG
realistically
sets.
people be expecting to get, because the RNG system is considerably poor.
Carry around 5 helmets for every occasion.
Example, my man needs an enhancement set for raiding. He also needs an enhancement set for doing other things like dungeons.
Mythic Plus.
Slightly different, but he also
PvP.
heals in PvP, so he needs a PvP
3.
set. And maybe he needs an elemental set.
4
that
helmets.
goes with that, just in case. Or maybe he needs to go and he wants to enjoy his class. I mean,
5
I
helmets.
need to come up with far more examples other than I want to play some
That's a lot of
elemental
hats.
for a bit. Or maybe this is better this week, depending on the affixes, things like that. There are lots of reasons for it. We're now at like 5 sets. Where does it go from there? What if there are different sets for AoE and single target, as many specs have? Okay,
6 hats.
Too far away.
What about if I want to expand that into elemental? I got 7 sets.
7
now
hats.
You very quickly start seeing.
I feel like I'm
picture
playing
here,
Team
and it's worse for
Fortress.
classes like druids, of course, where you're having to acquire so many sets of armor, right? That it becomes crazy to think about one having all those sets of armor because you're multiplying that then by 3 for the head, shoulders, and the chest. And then in the same breath, you're restricting access to these pieces. If we're being conservative, we could say 5 sets. That's 15 pieces of armor. That's all down to a weekly box and some raid luck, and that's it. And you want me to collect maybe 15 pieces of armor, depending on what's going on? That seems really unfair, you know? That seems really unfair if I just want to enjoy my class, and that's merely the problem here, enjoying my class, and it doesn't seem to make any sense, and it also seems very, very at
You're not allowed to have
the
fun
whole
anymore.
purpose of changing over to the Heart of Azeroth in the first place. This 1-on-1 doesn't make 2 is becoming more and more apparent. It's like, well, we intended it to work this way, but at the same time, we made it very hard to actually do what we intended you to do. But if you start doing it the other way, which would be to reforge your Azerite armor regularly, then we're going to stop you doing that. Well, are you going to do anything to increase the acquisition of Azerite
That's
armor
the
so we're
grand
not put in
scheme.
this position? That would be fine. Or should I expect, as is happening on my druid right now, because on my druid, I'm balancing raids, I heal.
We have
or tank
reports of an
dungeons.
enemy in this area.
So
Slay them.
I have 2 pieces of 370 Azerite armor, which is a substantial increase. You know, he's 60 item levels between the two. It's a substantial increase when I'm doing 10, 11, and 12 keys. So if I need to heal a 12 key, you're goddamn right. I want that 370 Azerite armor there.
Yeah.
I have no other way of acquiring it. So you've literally prevented me doing it. So
Yeah, you
am I
have to do
supposed
it.
Suck it up and stay as balanced, or what's the idea here? And yes, that does mean I need to reforge a lot more than Blizzard seemingly.
Look at this. Look at they're doing on screen.
Maybe they're going to
Well done.
hamstring.
The
He just
people
skipped
of
all those
Drustvar
mobs.
are
Very
safer
crazy.
thanks to you.
I had no idea you could do that.
He does mention there are going to be no more major tuning passes, which is kind of good news because
Damn.
we were at the point where we were playing
That's
Azerite
crazy.
Lottery, holding on to all our pieces because next week it's whatever Blizzard spins the wheel on to say that's.
You
now
really
the best
think they're
piece,
not going to do another
which
change?
is never nice to be going forward.
Give me a
the
fucking
final
break.
point raised then was to
Of course
Ian's
they will.
comment on the AMA that he did last week, where Law clarifies. To Ian's comment about new traits being introduced, he was referring to new traits on new gear added in new content with higher item level that replaces your old gear entirely. We are
That
not
seems
planning
terrible.
to add in new traits to existing items, so don't worry about holding on to Azerite pieces just in case their traits change. Now, this is a difficult one because I think the statement that Ian made during that AMA was actually pretty clear, and it is not in line with what Law says in this post. So I have found it again, and I will read it to you, and you guys can make your own sense, because we tried, at least with the few thousand of us in the stream today, to try and figure out some ambiguity in order to see whether or not you could come up with it a different way, or you can think about a different way, and here we go. This was from the AMA with Ian Hoscostas,
need a
the
target.
game director.
Okay.
While the generic traits are deliberately fairly straightforward, some of the spec-specific ones are indeed too passive, interact awkwardly with spec rotation. We'll be
don't have a
retiring
target.
some of those in an upcoming patch and adding better replacements to the pool. And of course, we'll be adding all new Azerite traits in new tiers of gear and upcoming content as the expansion continues. Okay, so the ambiguity here is some people felt that by retiring...
But
that
they
doesn't
just
mean
said
they're
they weren't
going
going
to
to do
take
that.
away the boring passive traits now. It's just that they won't appear
I've
on
collected
new gear,
many
when the new
things
stuff
over
comes.
the years.
That can be
See if you
interpreted
can match them.
somewhat that way.
Ah,
if you
good,
want
an
to- if you
adventurer.
think about it that
I
way.
have need of
However,
your
it doesn't come across to me
services.
that way. But again, we're kind of arguing semantics here, that whatever the latest point is, which is what Laura's posted now, is going to be the way. But I did want to pass some comment onto this. The reason I think that is this because we'll be reciting some of those in an upcoming patch and adding better replacements to the pool. That comment is made entirely separately from the next comment, which was, and of course, we'll be adding all new Azurite traits on new tiers of gear. That's talk from an upcoming content as the expansion continues. So that means the higher rank level stuff that's coming with new content will have all new Azurite traits. But the statement before it is, we are going to retire some of the current ones in a patch. We're just going to patch out some of them and bring in some other ones. Which got us a little excited. It's like, okay, they've listened. They realize these traits are, mind-numbingly dull in some cases. And they're going to do something about it. The most recent statement from Law does suggest, clearly says that's not what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. The likelihood is, in my opinion, from what I can read into this, is they looked into it and maybe came up with some traits. But at this point, the solution might be better, as I said at the start of the video, is simply to let rings 1 and 2 die. And just let them be a waste of time. And then whatever ring 3 is, or whatever, that be the interesting one. Or they will go away
those are
with
the
what
passives.
some people took away from Ian's comment, which was that...
If those are boring, then...
Here's the issue, you see.
What?
When the new set of tier of gear comes and our item level accessibility goes up, that the Ataldazar armor you would get from there, from your Mythic Plus box, will in fact contain different traits to what came from the Mythic Dungeon, because the old boring traits no longer exist. Now that does fly in the face of what Blizzard originally said, where you would know that the gear from Ataldazar or whatever is the traits you're looking for and get. That would create a difference there.
I don't think they know what they're doing.
They very desperately don't want to do. I think more realistically, from what I could tell here, is Ian meant what he said at the time, which is, yeah, some of them are garbage. We're going to take them out and put some good ones in.
I like that.
Then they looked into it and thought, what's the point? This is not a good idea right now because we've just got... It's actually far easier to just rebalance 1 and 2 to kind of be negligible. And then when we can introduce a new ring of stuff as we go forward into new tiers... Then we can add in
just
irrelevant. It's actually better to do that than to take out some other ones, put some new ones in, and then try and rebalance those along with the already existing traits, which kind of makes sense. I just don't like. I mean, you guys can pass comment on this as well. I think it's pretty clear what Ian was saying in that AMA is that, yeah, we're retiring some, we're getting rid of them, and we're going to replace them. I mean, those are the words he said. We're retiring and replacing in a patch. Not that we've got just new ones
but
coming
don't
on
save them because we won't replace them.
He mentions that separate.
Falconhurst is under attack from the Witch's forces. Clear any trace of their foul magic and restore order to the town.
If that was the case, and it might not be, it might just be interpreted as some people said, which is that he just misspoke.
That's okay,
which
too.
is entirely possible.
Yeah, I mean, everybody makes mistakes.
And this is the main issue, because obviously we have to take Law's word, which is the most recent one, which actually discusses the point I just raised, as the most up-to-date one, is... Look, this doesn't work.
I need a target.
Look, we get it. It's not worked, but obviously they're not going to say that. Rather than try to rewrite
I don't know why they don't just say that. People would like that.
On par with...
You'll be okay with that.
With rewriting the past to modify it.
Be fine.
I think that was a better way.
Like, yeah, we fucked up.
Better way. And the issue with comments like this is it's very easy to be called out as a liar, because there are many, many people who read what was said in the AMA as I did, which is you're retiring and replacing some of these more passive traits, which is what he said. And then seeing, like, actually, no, he didn't say that. It's like, well, I can read that. There's a lot of players who are going to go, wait a minute, you just said you were going to sort this out. Now you're saying that's not what he said, but I can read it over here. And it creates this frustration and doubt into what's happening here. Either way, that's what's happening, and that's my comments on it. I know it's a hot topic at the moment. Many of you have asked me to pass comment on it. I will link the thread down below. I'll link both the AMA, so you can check that as well. And you guys can see what you think. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.
For a longer video, I actually thought that was pretty good. We'll give him a like. That was definitely a good video. I liked it a lot. It made a lot of sense. So what he was saying was completely relevant, right? I mean, like, obviously everything he was saying made a ton of sense. And I agree, like, whenever I read it, that was the first thing that I thought of. It's like, how are you going to compare, like, AQ40 to something else? Like, it just seemed a little bit ridiculous to me. All right, past the point. It's just distrust at this point. I don't really know about that. So I will look at this video and we'll just kind of go through it. And obviously it's a pretty long video, so I'm going to click through most of it. But I wanted to see, people asked me to look at what they had to say about the Azerite thing because they kind of defended it. And I wanted to look at it from that way.
It's too far away.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Ian, you wanted to see me?
Oh, hi, Josh. Yeah, we just want to update you with some new information that we'd like you to pass on to the community.
I can't attack that.
Okay, great.
Is there a problem?
No. Well, yes. I mean, it's been pretty tense.
The witches have been expelled.
The problem is that
and
you guys
the citizens
are
of Falconhurst are safe once more.
Yeah, okay.
You
Not
have
them.
all our thanks.
Honestly, this
Blizzard.
is great news, and everyone is going to love you for it, I promise.
Yeah, last time you said that, you wanted me to announce a new store mount.
Okay, this is a home run. It's about WoW Classic.
Oh, God. You've cancelled WoW Classic, haven't you? You want me to tell them you've cancelled WoW Classic?
Josh,
Okay.
no. I told
Okay.
you, it's good news. WoW Classic.
You mind your
is
business,
releasing early.
and I'll mind mine.
Yeah, it's finished. So
Wait,
it's
what?
releasing in full the month after BlizzCon. It's going to be free
Wait, what the fuck?
to anyone who wants to play it. It's
Wait,
going to
what?
be exactly the same as Vanilla WoW. Anyone who installs it will also receive a handwritten letter from me apologizing for everything that they don't like in BFA. Oh, and $100 store credit compensation.
Okay.
That's actually really great.
Yeah, and that's not all. We need you to announce that we're bringing out playable high elves and ogres in patch 8.1.
Oh!
And if you've got time, you can reveal the new
This
plans
is getting
for
me
player
excited,
housing, too.
and it's not even real.
This is all so great. You are making my job so much easier. Anything else?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. We're buffing Shaman.
Really? Oh, wow. This is so... Oh, no. Wait a minute. Say that last one again.
We're buffing Shaman.
Good day to
It's a
you.
dream. Yep.
Josh? 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 Josh?
Yes, Ian?
Yeah, so just inform the community that we will be adding Azerite armor to Classic, and then you can break for lunch, okay?
Yes, Ian.
Are you crying?
Knowledge is power.
Hello everyone, and
That's
welcome
about
back
right.
to the weekly reset, Taliesin Nevertell's wondrous wisdom show. And this
Okay.
week we've got
Don't get many
classic
travellers
news.
here.
We've got hype about classic news and backlash from classic news and backlash against the backlash from the classic news, and also some stuff that isn't classic
Nay,
news,
blight
like
fall
Law
upon the
basically becoming the official Blizzard sacrificial lamb, or Punchbag,
Yeah.
or moustache twirling villain, depending on your point of view. Because
The last
Azerite
one.
armor, though. Plus, you remember those yellow and red spoiler alert warning things we introduced last episode? Yeah.
So
well,
where
I
is
hope
the
you like them,
Azerite
because
armor
you are
part?
gonna be seeing
Does anybody
a
know?
lot of them this time as we dive
'Cause the
headfirst
video's kinda
into some
long.
Absolutely
This is
dizzying
31
data
minutes in,
mining,
is that
taking
right?
in Saurfang, Tyrande, the Proudmoors, the Siege of
let's see.
Zuldazar, Mekatorp, Gallywix, and reveal the
Okay, let me
greatest
just click
evil
ahead a little
universe.
bit, okay?
WoW this year consists of Horde and Alliance cloaks.
Wow.
Which are really nice. I mean, they're cloaks. The Alliance one is blue, the Horde one is red. Everything seems to be in order. GG, well done. And also Horde and Alliance banners, which
But where's the
should
pet?
leave me as unmoved as the cloaks. I know, but
17
honestly,
minutes
these are
in.
So
Okay.
great. Like, why am I so impressed by dagger Zalatath? Although he actually gets sent on a mount is like, how could this scene possibly get any better? Oh yeah, that's right. She starts talking Welsh. Now you,
What the fuck?
frankly, or to it's the new not
I'm clicking around.
And Jaina all appear as boss fights in one form.
Cool.
Freezing.
So where's that? Where's the Azerite drama?
And engaging this.
Where,
BlizzCon!
Oh!
where's the Azerite drama?
So,
And I was like, you're not engaging with the problems I'm raising.
featuring Taliesin's E-face, which you all want on a shirt.
They're
Okay.
having problems. We're not. We're fine. They're having problems. But in the next couple of days, it'll be up. There will be a link in the description below as soon as it's up.
Yeah.
And so if you're from the US, you can now go and get normal.
people that WoW Classic demo, which you can't.
I'm doing my best,
the same
guys.
traits on
Oh,
highlight.
okay, here we go. So whoever said it was 17 minutes in is a fucking idiot. Okay? But who said 17 minutes in?
Resolve to
Okay.
satisfaction. I think this is quite
Here
a
we
nice
go.
low-key example of that. For me, by far the most important thing about any of this anyway,
All right.
now they have announced 8.1 and revealed the playable classic demo before BlizzCon. It just makes me even more curious about what they could possibly reveal in BlizzCon. And yes, I know it's all about Diablo this year, but they have to say something
what?
about WoW. And the two things I would have put money on are already out there. So is
Yeah.
there a big WoW reveal coming out? And
Very
what's it
unlikely.
going to be? And now I really want to put the spoiler warning up and talk about Welsh old gods, but I can't because there's something something else we have to look at. Another little taste of
Okay, this is where people are mad.
With my absolute favorite subject in the whole of WoW, Azerite armor. Community manager Law decided to respond to a long, thorough, and well-reasoned post entitled Azerite, Worst Itemization in WoW's History. Which summarizes the problems with Azerite armor in its current form, basically as, you can't target the gear you want. The chance of you getting the piece you want in the weekly cache is 1 in 100. The vast majority of traits are useless and uninteresting. Refarming the same traits on higher eye level gear feels bad, but things the traits do are unintuitive and all need simming to make sense of. The traits are all very unbalanced. The reforge cost reintroduces the exact spec lock problem people had in Legion, but worse, the tuning taking place right now means we don't know what gear is going to end up the best gear anyway. This was the post that Law responded to with a pretty detailed blue post of his
Some of the Kultiran Guard have reported a large beast in the area. It's a threat to any who travel the waters.
The majority of the communities can agree with on regards to Azerite. I mean, I could...
Some Earth elementals have been infused with Azerite and are going crazy! Put them down and absorb their Azerite.
Also gets its maths slightly wrong on that subject as well, but not to an extent that actually matters. The traits are definitely largely uninteresting, but they certainly aren't useless, because if they were, you wouldn't be targeting one trait over all the others.
Yes, they are.
Clearly is more useful to you.
Some are.
It's an inspiring stat point, yes, but that's not without use. It's something that you'd rather have than not. The reforge cost is categorically not the exact same spec lock problem people had in Legion, because when you change spec in BFA, you still have the same amount of artifact power as you had on your other spec.
That sort of kill would make the Outriggers jealous.
Small, ultimately unimportant points like that, but it doesn't matter overall. The fact is, none of these points, broadly, are very controversial. They may affect different players to varying degrees, but they are problems which I think we can all agree exist with the Azerite system, even if not exactly in the ways described here. Another important note about this post, it gathers together most of the complaints about Azerite armor in one place, but purposely offers pretty much nothing in the way of suggestions to fix it. That's not the purpose of the post. It's a good post. It deserves a reply, and so to Law's reply, which, to be frank, probably didn't go down as well as he might have. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about Azerite armor. Okay, big subject that we're actually going to dedicate the midweek video to. I actually think most of the frustration stems from one singular aspect that can be quite easily fixed, but let's be clear, I recognise these problems,
I don't have a target.
and I'm not interested in solving them in this segment. That comes in the video in the week. No, here I want to look at Law's response, and more specifically, the responses to Law's response, because it's being held up as all sorts of wrong. So join us as we give Law some shit. So first off, let's give Law shit for being really insulting and dismissive to the player base while looking down at them from his ivory tower. I think what really got me was the tone, opening with a really confused quip and one of the most spectacular criticism dodges I've seen. The quip in question is where Law says he thinks the title of the post is a bit hyperbolic, which it is, and brings up AQ40 resistance gear farming as an example of worse itemization, which obviously is a terrible example, but
I don't have a target.
Is it tone deaf or dismissive or attempting to dodge criticism?
Yes.
Literally, the next thing he writes is, you summarise a lot of the discussion we've been seeing around the community really well. That's not dismissive. What's tonally inappropriate about saying you summarised a lot of the discussion we've seen around the community?
Because you phrased it as being incorrect.
The attempt to dodge criticism in that? Likewise, in the course of his post, he agrees that there's a problem with gear targeting. He agrees about trait imbalance. He agrees that refarming traits is no fun. And he agrees that constant reforging is rubbish and is not the system working as intended. That's the vast majority of criticism in this post that Law is accepting here as accurate. That doesn't strike me as criticism dodging or dismissive. For most of the points, he also goes on to suggest fixes for those issues, which, don't forget, the OP doesn't. He's honest in saying that they don't yet have a fix for the farming trait problem, which for me is the easiest fix of all, but there you go. He gets a little bit confused in his response to the simming point, but he's just talking about a slightly different thing from the OP, and that's really unfortunate, but it's not malicious. And essentially what we've got here is everyone agreeing with each other on what the problems are, and I don't see how that means that the issue here is Blizzard not acknowledging what the problems are, because I can see them doing it right here, and I know what you're thinking. I can hear you right now typing in the comments, calling me a Blizzard shill, but I'm not a Blizzard shill.
It's you guys.
I'm a person shill, because this is a real life person here that you are tearing apart and accusing of being bad at their job because they agree with most of the points in this post, but also made a bad joke about the title of the post. And as someone who makes bad jokes every day of his life, please please let's not start flaming people for that. So look, this is not a defensive Blizzard, and it's not a defensively Azerite system, okay? I think Blizzard need to put on their big boy pants on this and deal with it, but I think the community do too, and not just habitually lash out at sincere attempts at engagement. I disagree with most of the solutions suggested here, but accusing Blizz and Law of dismissing the points raised in the first place is inaccurate and unhelpful, and a clear case of Schrodinger's Blizzard, who simultaneously ignore your concerns, also suggest fixes for your concerns which you don't agree with. Both of those things can't be happening. Personally, there's a lot that I like about the Azerite armor system. In theory, it doesn't need scrapping, and actually a couple of very obvious changes I think would solve every issue. And like I say, don't worry, because I'm going to single-handedly solve the Azerite problem in the next video for free. Like,
thank God, that's more content.
So now, finally, let me put up that big red spoiler warning. I'm going to talk data mining. I'm going to talk old gods. I've earned this.
So, if you say thanks for putting it together, and then you add right after that, what you're saying is hyperbolic, which implies that it's wrong and misguided. And then after you say that it's misguided, then you say that this summarizes what the community has been thinking. You're indirectly saying that the community is misguided. Like that, I mean, does nobody see through this? So, on top of that, it seems very obvious to me that this post was dismissive, right? And it very much was. And also acknowledging concerns, which is what War did. War did acknowledge that they were concerned, is good, right? And I'm not saying that was completely wrong. And if you're saying that somebody is bad at their job, and if their job is communication, and they communicate what you want them to hear, but people aren't happy, but their job is communication, I would consider that a bad post, because the post's goal was to communicate properly and make people happy, and that did not happen, even though the people got what they wanted. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. On top of that, let's see, what else do we have? Call McConnell? All right, I'll call McConnell. I'll see what he says about it. Check whispers from McConnell. Just a second. Okay. He said the title was hyperbolic, not the content. The title is about the content. Like, that's what I'm saying, is the title is about the content. Like, there's always plausible deniability, but there are subconscious draws and subconscious sways that you put on things in order to make people think something different than what you're actually trying to say. Okay. Yo.
What a joke. What a freaking joke.
Just
Number one, straight off the bat, this guy doesn't
stop.
know what he's talking about.
Well,
he doesn't know what he's talking about.
I don't want to have you come on and roast this guy, okay? Like, we can address, like, let's address the arguments. I don't want to start any drama. I might disagree with what he's saying, but you can do it on your stream. I have no problem with that. But I don't want to have any sort of drama, okay? I have nothing against these guys. I disagree with what they're saying. I disagree with them supporting it, right? But I'm not going to be a dick. I'm a good guy.
Okay.
Okay? All right, what are you going to say?
He is wrong.
Okay. Why is he wrong?
Because Lore went to the smart people's place, the colleges, to understand how to write to the community, right?
Okay.
He knows how to manage the community. Lore knows what he's saying, okay? And I can't say too much about this.
It's a shame that Azerite is driving the elements out of control.
Right,
more reason for us to be putting an end to this.
But it's obvious to me that he's trying to stick up for Lore because he thinks that he's above criticism. Like, oh, he knows what he's doing. He was just addressing your concerns and stuff like that. No, he wasn't. He's being dismissive. It's obvious Lore is being dismissive. You see it. I see it. Everybody
well, here's the thing, right? Is like, so being dismissive, let's look at like what is dismissive. Being dismissive is a judgment based off of, you know, what somebody is saying, right? That's pretty much what it is. It's a judgment. So there is no like are there things that basically make it sound and things that are more or less always dismissive? Yes, there are, but dismissive is a subjective judgment. So if most of the people in the community that are reading this are saying that it's being dismissive, it's one of those things that if a lot of people are taking it that way, then it's that way. Now, if it wasn't intended to be that way, that's different. But if everybody's thinking that it's dismissive, in a way, that makes it dismissive. Yeah, perception is reality. There it is. So what are you saying, McConnell? I don't want to distract you.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that Lord doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, either he's being fed what to say from the higher ups, which is they clearly don't know what's going on, or he's the one that doesn't know what's going on, and he doesn't know how people feel. I feel like I feel like Blizzard devs and the CMs kind of live in a bubble where they get so much information, but they just don't take any of it into consideration. They just have all this feedback, but they just you know what? Let's go ahead and just move forward with this plan that we had, and because you know how they work on expansions, like as soon as one expansion's released, they start working on the next one, right?
Yeah.
So if they have all the systems in place for this expansion, but the system that they came up with this expansion is so garbage that the entire place,
the pirate crews in Freehold are always up to
then
something.
What are they going to do? They can't just scrap it.
Yeah, they can.
No, they can't. They have to.
Of course they can. What do you mean? Why can't they scrap it?
Because everything is tied into Azerite. There's no way
they're
going
to
scrap this.
It's easy. Like I can guarantee you. Like so,
you don't just scrap it, dude.
Yeah, you do. Like they literally like. I mean, they made the whole scrapper. You know what Blizzard should do? They should make a cinematic of them taking all of the Azerite gear in the game and putting it in the scrapper, like the idea. And it's like, you know, an artifact or a legendary idea, and scrapping the idea. And you know what the result is going to be? And what they're going to get out of it in the cinematic? Fucking tier sets. You're going to scrap it, and it's going to come out with 5 pieces of armor that's a tier set. That's what Blizzard should do.
It's not going to happen. Like,
yeah,
you can
I know.
fantasize
right,
about this all day, but it's not going to happen.
I really can. All right, keep going.
That's like saying, oh, they can just get rid of legendaries. No, of course not. They were
they
never going to get rid
easily,
of legendaries.
They could have.
No, dude.
They could have easily done it. They could have just added the Awakening Essence system at the beginning, and it would have gotten rid of the entire problem.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah, they could.
They're too committed to a system. They're too.
Yeah, because they're fucking delusional. That's why they don't play the game. Like, I want to see. I wish I could see.
He's a Scarab Lord.
Ian gets it. Like, maybe he could just be misguided, right? I think Ian's wrong with a lot of stuff. He's been in the same fucking guild for 10 years. Obviously, loot for his guild is different than loot for somebody else's guild. It's a unique circumstance. So, like, to say that, like, that's a good idea, right? It's completely different. Maybe, like, what would it be like if they had, like, a system, right, where you could have different things that you could empower your weapons, or sorry, not your weapons, your abilities with, and call them glyphs? That'd be crazy.
Oh.
to get closer. I'm out of range.
Good day to you.
Stand and deliver!
out of range.
The evidence, but you didn't leave many of them to carry out their plan. Either way, good job.
you
Deep Warden's hold on Angle Point remains strong. We must do what we can to restore the wharf to normality.
Far away.
With your help, Angle Point will one day be restored.
I don't have a target.
What can I do for you? Safe passage.
Ahoy! Always loyal.
Hello. Be careful. Good luck, friend. What brings you here? Farewell.
Get closer. It's too far away. need a target. It's too far away. Out of range. Too far away.
Horde forces have assembled another Azerite-powered war machine. Destroy it before they can use it to decimate Stromgarde. Horde forces have assembled another Azerite-powered war machine. Destroy it before they can use it to decimate Stromgarde. wolves howl indeed. Well done.
It's too far away. Out of range. I need the target. It's too far away. I need a target. I don't have a target. Out of range. It's too far away.
Till the quiet and the echoes became colder. I never really knew that it was over. Till the quiet and the echoes became colder. It's yours to leave, but it won't keep me from this heart. And I'll try to carry on again. But I never really knew that it was over.
It's too far away. I need to get closer. I'm out of range. I need a target. I need a target. I don't have a target.
Jack it up.
Target. I need to get closer. It's too far away. I don't have a target. too far away. I need to get closer. I don't have a target. I need a target.
That carries them has kept me astray. Too soon to act on it, can we ever be? That all depends on what you're feeling from me. Show you all the way. Let me show you all the ways. Oh, let me show you all the ways. Taken by the words that you say. The voice that carries them has kept me astray. Too soon to act on it, can we ever be? That all depends on what you're feeling from me. Show you all the way. Let me show you all the way. Show you all the ways, yeah. Let me show you all the ways.
I need a target.
We have come.
far away. It's too far away.
When there's no more light that you can see, I'll take us back to times when lives were similar and times that all seemed easier. Don't be afraid, I'll be the one to guide you through this endless maze. Don't look so sad, you're crying, eyes won't dry. You gotta drive with both headlights so we can see the world and we'll run away together like the things that we could be. I'll drown us in the purple drapes that you were clothed in. We can live like royalty. I'll sing to you like a
too far
radio
away.
that's up beneath your window. Don't look so sad. You're crying, eyes won't dry. You gotta drive with both headlights so we can see the world and we'll run away together like
target. I need a target.
They say it's your own choice. Can you hear my voice? It's a lesson to be learned.
far away.
to take something at the edge of space, calling us to fly away.
Walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town,